Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Standing. My name is Beth. This is Binks. Um, if I seem to be sitting a little funny, that is because Pigwidgeon, another kitten, crawled up and decided to lay themselves on the cushioned back of the chair, leaning against me. And if I move, I'm afraid that the poor baby's going to fall in their sleep, and it's a long way to the floor. And if you hear craziness going on over there, that is the thud third kitten, Crookshanks, but I think she's settling down now. They have gotten very active the last few days, and our whole world is ridiculous. But I am here today not to talk about the kittens, even though they are adorable, but to talk about Fred Gibson. I promised you guys that I would do a bio for every author that we do for our classic children's literature book club books. And this month, Old Yeller, which I promise those chapters will be up in the next week. By the end of the month, all the chapters will be recorded and up. So we'll get that taken care of, Fee. I got you. But right now we're going to talk about the author, Fred Gibson. He wrote Old Yeller, but he also wrote a multitude of other books. His first book was Fabulous Empire, the Colonel Zach Miller story, which was published in 1946. He then wrote Hound Dog Man, Circle Round the Wagons, The Home Place, Big Ben, A Homesteader's Story, Cowhand, The Story of a Working Cowboy, The Trail Driving Rooster, Recollection Creek, Old Yeller, The Cow Killers with the Aftosa Commission in Mexico, Recollection Creek, which was revised for young people. He revised it because Recollection Creek was more for older readers. He then revised it for young people, and that was published in 59, the original in 55. Savage Sam in 62 and Little Orlis in 78. Those are the follow-ups to Old Yeller. Curly and the Wild Boar in 79, and then a reprinting of Hound Dog Man in 80. That was something he had edited and redone. Now, he passed away in 1973, so Little Arliss, Curly and the Wild Boar, and Hound Dog Man were all, or the second Hound Dog Man, were all posthumous printings. He was born in Mason, Texas, which is Hill Country, Texas, on the 7th of February, 1908. That is my boyfriend's birthday, the date, not the year. So I snagged on that real quick. I will probably remember this now. Although I'm not sure how I feel about the author of Old Yeller and my boyfriend sharing a birthday. But then he passed away on August 14th, 1973. His parents owned farmland, and he grew up on farming, ranching. He worked several farming and ranching jobs growing up. There's not a whole lot known about him, just like publicly out there about that time. But when he was about 25 in 1933, he went to Austin and enrolled in the University of Texas. So he went to UT Austin and started working for a couple of newspapers in the area. And then he ended up dropping out of college in order to become a full-time journalist. He worked for the Daily Texan and the Ranger newspapers, but then he left school to become a journalist. And then sometime in the 1940s, he began writing short stories that were Western themed. And this obviously became the catalyst and laid the groundwork for his future works, because everything he wrote ended up being Western themed, based a lot of the time in the hill country of Texas, where he lived and was most comfortable. What I find incredibly interesting about all this is, you just say, oh, he was born in 1908, and then he went to college in 1933, and if you're not paying attention, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and then you start counting. He was 25 when he went to college. He was in his mid to late 30s when he started writing his short stories. His first novel was published in 1946, so I believe that would have made him 38. I think. Let's count together. 1908 to 18, then 28, then 38, then 40. Yeah, he would have been 38 and 46. So when he is doing all of this, he published Old Yeller in, what did I say, 56? It became a Disney movie in 57, won the Newbery Honor Award. He was just shy of 50 years old. My house is complete chaos. Okay, so his first novel was published in 46, like I said, and then Hound Dog Man, his second novel, in 1947, sold over 250,000 copies in year one. So Gibson was kind of an immediate success. There weren't really a whole lot of Western-themed children's books going around at this time. But it became very popular for books, TV shows, movies, etc. in the 50s and 60s, and Gibson was kind of at the cutting edge of this in America. And I think he did a good job. Like, he definitely did what he did well. However, he is also very much a product of his times and where he came from and when he came from. So he passed away, like I said, in 1973, and Frederick Benjamin Gibson is buried at Texas State Cemetery. Now, I have lived in Texas for over half of my life. I was born and raised here. I always identify as a Texan, even though I did live somewhere around 18, 20 years. Something, I don't even know. I lived for several years in Oklahoma. I've always identified as a Texan. That is who I am. And I had no idea that the author of Old Yeller was from Texas. So that is very interesting to me. But probably not to you, I guess. I've lost where I was going with that. However, I am just fascinated by the fact that this man, was from the hill country. He ended up working at a newspaper in San Angelo for a little while. I have been to San Angelo, have family from San Angelo. My best friend / pseudo sister-in-law lives about 45 minutes from San Angelo and does this giant indoor garage sale thing that she works every year in San Angelo. And it's those little connections that make me feel like the rereading of this story is worth it because I know what's coming up. Anyway, so he ended up being married twice. His first marriage ended in divorce and was to a woman named Tommy Wynn, and they had 2 sons. In 1967, he got married again to Angelina Torres, and he passed away 5 years later. The governor gave a special proclamation to allow him to be buried in the state cemetery in Austin. And critics say that he made the term Southwest literature legitimate and meaningful. He turned bits and pieces of folklore into myth. His novels were translated into Danish, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Norwegian, Spanish, Swedish, and Turkish. Curly and the Wild Boar and Little Orlis were posthumously published, as I said, and then they also posthumously published I've lost my mind completely. Also, posthumous Hound Dog Man the reworking of Hound Dog Man. Old Yeller sold nearly 3 million copies by the time he passed away in 1973. It is by far his most popular work and the one that he considered to be his best. So that is what we have on Fred Gibson. It was surprisingly difficult to find reliable information on him, as I don't subscribe to Wikipedia, because I could go in and say Fred Gibson was a time traveler who accidentally stepped through a portal and get it approved. Like they're doing better. Oh, stretches. They are doing better about that. However, it's not always reliable. So finding reliable information, was difficult on this one. And doing it in between the ginormous amount of work I have for my college class and trying to prepare to go to my new classroom, and a completely different job is just crazy. But I found the information, and now you have the information, and I hope you enjoyed the information. I will talk to you again soon, and until then, please be safe.